performing any other work capacity in the employee of the motor carrier. You could be sending a driver to the post office to deliver the mail for you, and that's going to be on duty time. Doesn't have to be directly related to their duties if it's in the service of the carrier. And 9 is the one that is probably violated the most in some parts of the world, and it's the least understood. But it's very precise, performing any compensated work for someone who's not a motor carrier. This is the second job provision. If the driver has a second job and they're being paid for it, it could be at McDonald's. That's still on duty time on their record. Now, Danielle could tell you that how difficult that would be. She does her auditing at times. How difficult that would be to enforce, but it can be done, and in a case it happens based on complaints and situations. So you don't want a driver who you have failed to ask about their outside employment. They come to work exhausted all the time. Now there's something to be looked into, what's going on. All that time in another job that they're being paid for may be on duty time that they should be recording. Now, I want to talk a little bit about regulatory guidance, what it is, and how it applies in a couple scenarios. Regulatory guidance is official. It's like an official opinion of the agency. It doesn't go through the whole rulemaking process. The idea is that you can't write a perfect rule. If you tried to write a rule that covered every situation, scenario, I think that everybody would like to see a rule, it would be so long that it would be impossible to understand it. So there have to be, at times, official questions and answers that we issue. They go through a formal process. They're approved by our legal people and all of our senior management. They're published in the Federal Register. We currently have about 700 questions and answers of regulatory guidance, which are too many. So we have a big project going trying to whittle those down. There's a lot of old ones, simply because with all the rulemaking, we haven't had time to keep up on regulatory guidance. So you may find regulatory guidance that this doesn't fit anymore, and we may have to tell you that's just not right, but we haven't had a chance to update it. And it's particularly true of Part 395 for your hours of service. A lot of the questions and answers that are in there just don't fit very well anymore, and they sometimes can't be relied on literally. We do have that project pretty well along to try to rewrite those and bring them up to date, but it's a very tedious project, and some laws have been passed to make it even more difficult to do that job. So regulatory guidance, when you see it, you may call it interpretations. It's the same thing. They do have some official standing, but they're not quite a rule, but they're more than just the opinion of somebody in the agency who you might ask. Now, one of the regulatory guidance questions that was changed in 2013 had some bearing on what we've been talking about, and that has to do with brakes. And we're not talking about brakes on the vehicle, we're talking about meal breaks, restroom breaks, giving the driver some time off. And the question that you see there, the reason some of the lines are crossed out, that's how the rule was changed. The question was what condition must be met for the driver to record meal and other breaks during the work shift as off-duty time. So the question is very similar to the way it was before. Where the changes occurred, and there were four parts, and it's been cut down to 2. In the first item, it's just a minor change. It still says the driver has to be relieved of all duty and responsibility for the care and custody of the vehicle and the cargo and passengers and so on. So if the driver doesn't have any responsibility to you in the vehicle and passengers, that can be a break, that can be an off-duty break. The second one, an important one though, that was crossed out completely, said that the break time had to be a very specific time period that but yet it was a vague. It said it had to be a finite period of time that was sufficient to ensure rest. that becomes meaningless. Yeah, and nobody knows what that time period is. So the solution was just to cross that out, because when you start researching rest and breaks, it just can't be proved from a scientific standpoint. And the same with item 3 was crossed out. It said that the employer had to provide written instructions to the driver as to when they could take breaks and what the policies were and so on. This is crossed out because it really wasn't practical in the first place. It was so specific. And effectively would have had to be rewritten for every trip the driver went on. So this one came out. And the last one, during the stop and for the duration of the stop, the driver must be at liberty to pursue activities of his or her own choosing. That's still in there. But crossed off is leave the premises where the vehicle is situated. It used to say the driver had to be able to leave the premises, or it could not be off duty. That was taken out, and to some effect, some reason due to the motor coach industry, particularly charter services, where drivers were starting to claim they were at a casino and they were parked, passengers, gamblers had gone inside, customers had gone inside, and the driver was told he was off duty to do whatever he wanted. And the carrier might say he's free to leave, but the drivers were saying, but in effect, I'm not free to leave because I have no way of leaving, and you got into all those debates. So that's scratched off. So what you end up with now, is a much condensed version that tries to make it more precise of what's on duty, time as related to breaks. And we're not necessarily talking about short breaks. These can be long periods of time, especially in your industry, where you have the 15-hour rule. You have longer periods of breaks, that you don't worry about because it's not running against your time, being off duty. But it may help with debates with the drivers. I'm trying to watch my watch here. Make sure we can get through a couple of points here and get to some questions. One of the special categories was on an ELD that is causing the most headaches of all. It's called personal conveyance. And all personal conveyance means is that you are driving a commercial motor vehicle, but you're off duty. Remember, there's no new duty statuses. This is an off-duty status, but you're being allowed to drive a commercial motor vehicle for personal use. And there are a lot in the past, particularly in the property carrier world, the driver may just not even put anything in the logbook. Who knew they were even driving it? Or if they put anything in there, they just showed themselves off duty. Well, with the ELD is going to show that that vehicle was moving and went somewhere. And if there's no record that the driver was on duty or what his assignment was, there's a problem. So one of the categories they can bring up is called, say, I'm driving a CMV, but I'm allowed to do it, and it's for my personal reasons. Now, your drivers don't have as much of a reason to dispute this all the time because of your 15-hour rule. The property carriers are a little fussier. Every minute can count sometimes against theirs, but mostly you're counting against driving time. So here, vehicle's being driven, and if you don't go in on personal conveyance, the driver's going to be showing time against their 10 hours of driving time. So there's some things you have to look at with personal conveyance. And again, it's back to the man on the street approach. Is what you're doing, the activity at that moment in time, really personal? Doesn't matter what the vehicle is. Try to put that out of your mind and say, what are you doing? Is it for you personally, or does it have some connection, responsibility with your job? Too many people are still focusing on the vehicle. Say, well, this vehicle can't, be this size or can't be that, and it doesn't matter in reality. We do have new regulatory guidance coming out on this issue, sooner or later. It's been worked on for many years because it is so difficult to put it in writing. But it will come out hopefully within the next few months. And hopefully it won't be a dramatic change. It's just trying to get these principles down somehow into words. And again, consider the activity, whether it's personal or not. Just keep in the back of your mind that even when you're in personal conveyance status, you're still driving a CMV. So any responsibilities that go with having a CMV still apply. You're getting out of hours of service and being off duty, but things can happen that would put you on duty. Example, an accident happens. You automatically go on duty because you have a responsibility with that commercial motor vehicle and carrier, to handle and get involved in handling that accident. So you've gone on duty. You've now switched from personal use. If you were on your way to a restaurant, you've switched now to a responsibility of the carrier for carrying the vehicle. So it can depend a little bit on let me jump ahead one. I'm trying to move along a little bit. One of the most difficult areas to define, we'll be looking at this more and more, are commuting issues. Now, I don't think you have too many drivers that commute home with a motor coach and take the motor coach home with them. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but there are, in the property carrying side, a lot of drivers who are allowed to take the company vehicle home or to use it for other personal errands while they're out on the road. If they're staying overnight at a motel, they are allowed to use the company vehicle to run to a restaurant nearby, things like that. Those are hard to define as what we call commuting. And particularly the type of commuting where they're being allowed to go from a residence to a job site. And again, I'm not going to get into it because it doesn't apply as much to your folks. There are industries out there, though, where they set up temporary work sites when they're out on the road, and they work from that temporary site for weeks or months at a time, and we get into a lot of issues of what their commuting time is on personal conveyance. So we are working on regulatory guidance on that. Travel time is another official category. This is not regulatory guidance. Travel time is 395.1J in the hours of service rules. It's a little bit misunderstood. The original idea of travel time, and it's still the idea, is that if you had a driver who was being sent to another location, generally on a train, an airplane, even a ferry boat's mentioned in the guidance of the rule, if they were being sent somewhere on a non-CMV, they weren't doing the driving, they weren't doing any part of the work. When they got to the other end of that trip, if they were given their 8 hours off, then the whole time they were on the trip can be considered off duty. So the idea was simply, and you reposition drivers and so on, you have to reposition them. They're not doing any driving or any work in the process of being repositioned. When they get there, they get their 8 hours off. They can count that whole time as off duty. Now, it comes back to, and I'm not going to go into the exact words here, but that is right there on the screen. That's all there it is to the travel time. But the way it's applied is when you talk about cushioning, we get questions on that.